if there's any doubt that what we have with the MAGA Republicans in their relationship with evangelical Christians, what we should really now call Christian nationalists, is that they intend not only to control women's bodies by the IVF, what we had with IVF and control, abortion control, etc., but much deeper than that. Ali Velshi exposes that when he points out the writings from this particular judge and from Alabama, what he had to say and where he actually speaks. Listen to this and then we'll take it on.
Now, as confusing and radical as the original ruling was, the concurring opinion from the Alabama Chief Justice, Tom Parker, stands out as particularly notable. Chief Justice Parker wrote in his concurrence that Alabama had a, quote, theologically based view of the sanctity of life adopted by the people of Alabama encompasses the following. God made every person in his image. 2, each person therefore has a value that far exceeds the ability of human beings to calculate. And 3, human life cannot be wrongfully destroyed without incurring the wrath of a holy God. Now, if you're surprised to see this kind of language in a legal opinion, perhaps you shouldn't be. The very same day that the IVF ruling came down, Chief Justice Parker appeared on a video podcast hosted by a conservative, QAnon-believing, self-proclaimed prophet.
God created government. And the fact that we have let it go into the possession of others is heartbreaking for those of us who understand, and we know it is for him. And that's why he is calling and equipping people to step back into these mountains right now.
Step back into these mountains right now. That's Alabama Chief Justice Parker. And if you look closely, you'd see what it says behind him. Restore the 7. That's a reference to the 7 Mountains Mandate, or the 7 Mountains Dominion, which is a Christian evangelical and Pentecostal belief that urges its followers to establish God's kingdom on earth by controlling the 7 mountains of society: family, religion, education, arts and entertainment, commerce, media, and government. And as Parker said, he believes that God created government and that God is calling and equipping people to step back into those mountains of society. Now, this might sound fringe, but the beliefs behind the 7 Mountains ideology, and specifically the ideologically driven effort to get believers into powerful positions in our government, is not fringe at all. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson recently said that he believes the separation of church and state is, quote, a misnomer. In an interview on CNBC, Johnson said that he believes the founders did not want the government to encroach upon the church, not that they didn't want principles of faith to have influence on our public life. It's exactly the opposite, end quote. Shortly after he became speaker, Johnson was apparently not aware that there was media in the room when he compared himself to Moses while speaking about his ascension to the speakership in a speech to conservative lawmakers. This week, a state senator in Oklahoma made a statement about the death of a non-binary teenager named Nex Benedict, who was beaten in a school bathroom the day before they died. The senator said, quote, "We're going to fight to keep that filth out of the state of Oklahoma because we are a Christian state," end quote. Another political action group that follows similar beliefs, called My God Votes, aims to rally believers to get involved in government and to vote for their endorsed candidates. The pastor who ran its inaugural event last month in Houston started off by listing the many people who will be on the ballot during this primary who were in attendance, including a candidate for Congress, state senators, state representatives, school board officials, and sheriffs. And then he said this.
I want to start off by saying this is not a political event. And I say that with all sincerity because what we're doing here tonight is kingdom business. This is God's business. Those who serve in office are called God's ministers for good. And it says that he is not a minister. He is a minister to execute wrath on those who practice evil. And so we have a line of defense that we elect and put in office to execute wrath. They call him God's avenger. All you who are elected people, I want you to know you are God's avenger to execute wrath against evil. So thank you for serving in God's kingdom tonight.
You are God's avenger to execute wrath against evil. There have been rulings and bills in Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, and Idaho that allow those states to bring religious practices into public schools or to use public funds for religious schools. I could go on. There are seemingly endless examples of recent blurring of the line or overt tearing down of the line between church and state. But our founders, the very first thing they decided to fix with the role of religion in this country, the First Amendment, written in 1791, reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech, which is the one we normally associate with this amendment, or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The very First Amendment. What the founders meant by establishment has been debated intermittently since this was written, but despite many challenges to the so-called Establishment Clause, the Supreme Court affirmed the separation of church and state repeatedly over decades. However, in the last 2 years, this very conservative U.S. Supreme Court has delivered a series of blows to the Establishment Clause, allowing prayer in school, allowing businesses to deny service to LGBTQ plus individuals, allowing public funds to go toward religious schools. Meanwhile, Trump is capitalizing on the momentum of the religious right, promising to fight for the Christian right, all the while his team organizes a plan of action that is steeped in Christian nationalism.
Now, if that is not simple enough to understand, if you take a look at the trajectory of not only the judge in Alabama, but the new Speaker of the House and Johnson, and if we go ahead and listen to their words, again, this is that completely evil alliance between MAGA and Christian nationalists to control not just women, to control not just bodies of others, but to simply pervert what is the United States of America, something that we simply cannot allow to occur.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.